Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with a special meeting, Waterways Advisory Board meeting. Today's date is April 8th, 2025. The time is 11 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Eberline, Duncan, and Matari. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment? Hearing none. First item, elected officers. It's a discussion, and we have Doug Harris here.
Well, thank you for having us, Commissioner. Today is an update on one of our regularly scheduled meetings we have for the Parks and Waterways Advisory Boards. And I have with me two members, Gary Schmidt. I lost my mind.
You'll get it. Schmidt.
Okay, Schmidt. And Tom Torreson. Okay. They're also members of the board, and they came along. What we had is our election of officers for this year, and I was reelected as the chairman, and Michael Pellisario was elected as vice chairman.
Okay.
All right. On item 2, the 11th Street Marina.
Any questions? No? Okay.
Sorry.
Yep, go right ahead.
I'm sorry. Item 2, the 11th Street Marina. As you know, we're often contacted by members of the public asking permission to splash buoys and other things. I'm concerned about the waterways. And 11th Street Marina is a privately held marina. They have no public access other than a boat pump out for the sewage that's not really well advertised. There's no access from the shore out to the water, nor from the water. If you were to use their pump out onto the shore, you're not allowed to use their restrooms, and it's totally private. They had asked the county for permission to install 4 wake buoys. No wake buoys in their area. And since they didn't meet the criteria, we denied it. And the criteria was something that the Board of County Commissioners established a few years ago, which was that if a permanent water hazard is present on public waterways, people can come and ask for buoys. Marinas with 25 or more slips, which they met, which provide services to the public, such as moorage, fuel, and other services, which they don't really meet. And unique conditions present that can create a significant hazard to public safety as determined by the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Well, the sheriff had not endorsed their proposal, so we just denied it at the time.
Any questions, comments?
Bruce, I would like to. I would just like to say, too, it was an incredibly professional. We've had people, everybody wanted buoys last year. I mean, like literally half of the bays on Coeur d'Alene Lake. And they did a very professional presentation. And when they were told no, they were very accepting and they understood why. I just didn't, but they were very reasonable with what it is. And in addition to what they were we were saying, the current no wake zone from structures on the water, the docks and the breakwater, kind of covers them already. So it wasn't like a single toned thing. I'm not a fan of buoys, but I'm a fan of people just, if they do what they're supposed to do, then you don't have that problem. But
well, I'm just curious, do you believe that the criteria that was set by a previous board is still appropriate today?
Can I? I brought that up at our meeting. Your definition of public, I think, is exceedingly ambiguous, and it works fine until it doesn't. If I was the applicant in this case, I could very easily say it is public. We've got a publicly owned water pump out, sewage pump out place, and the public can use it. Therefore, it's public. But he's right. Nobody can get in from the street. Nobody can get out off the dock unless you have a key. They don't advertise that it's a public pump out. So it's just ambiguous. But it would be a real challenge, and I understand, to firm up that language. And this probably gives your legal team wiggle room to argue the fact if somebody, like if, for example, if they pushed it, you probably have enough wiggle room with what's in there. So maybe it's better to have it be a little bit ambiguous.
And another thing, they do charge for the pump out too. It's not a free pump out.
Oh, do they?
Yes, and they do. And the county does not maintain it; they maintain it.
I knew that.
Yeah, so they also charge $7 to pump out.
Did we give them?
Yes.
Do they own the? Could they sell that and get rid of it, or did we have an agreement that they have to maintain or retain it?
It was considered surplus property, and we donated it by way of the county commissioner.
Understood. Maybe it's not public.
So it's not truly public in that sense.
Okay, thank you.
Abandoned boats.
Well, hold
You
on a
have any more
second.
questions on that, sir?
This is an action item. So is there something you're asking of the board specifically?
To deny their application for buoys.
To affirm the decision by the Waterways Advisory Board?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
I move that we affirm the decision of the Waterways Advisory Board to deny 11th Street Marina buoys. Mark?
I'm still looking over there. What's the purpose of this? What is the purpose of removing buoys or?
Well, they wanted to add buoys over there because it was generally, I guess, boats could approach this dock and have some sort of material pumped out of the boat. And so.
They were
Well, I think
concerned about wake.
They're concerned about wake and people in the water, like everyone is that's near the shore is concerned about the wake. And just for the record, they were willing to pay for those buoys. So they did offer to pay for them. They're about $6,000 each, but they had requested 4 out there. But once they're put in the water, the county is then responsible for maintaining them forever. So it becomes that. And the attitude was that because it's not a public entity, public monies going towards a private entity is never a good thing.
That's correct.
Okay, so what happens is, for example, I'll use Hagedon's over on Blackwell Island. He sells gas to the public. You can use his restroom. Has a restaurant you can use. Has all sorts of access. You can use his docks. You can walk on and off from there. You can launch from his area. Same thing with Blackwell Island. Those are public access. Same thing with Quinbellin Park down in, well, that's actually a city park.
Yeah.
City Park down in Post Falls. So those types of places that have no wake zones and needs for it. Something else about that, if you're familiar with the 11th Street dock, it's on the other side of Tubbs Hill from where we are now. On this side would be the 3rd Street dock, down by the Hagedon Resort. When you go around that corner, it kind of has natural protection anyway. The fact that the mountain pulls right up next, or Tubbs Hill pulls right up next to the 11th Street docks. So it's not really a high-speed area as people go through there. It's actually a very low-speed area. And then that beach goes on down towards where the golf course is. A lot of people that are going across the lake will cut across Tubbs Hill and then head straight down to either Beauty Bay or down to the lake itself, go south on the lake. Very few of them will come around the corner and hug the shoreline there. So there's usually not a lot of wakes there as a result of that. They were just something they were trying to be preemptive at. Do you agree, Mr. Snyder?
Generally speaking, commissioners, the marinas request these buoys because of the amount of traffic coming in and out from the public and others. And as Doug described, it is sort of tucked in at the foot of Tubbs Hill. And they, again, to Doug's point, they're just trying to be proactive. I think the decision made by the advisory board, or I should say recommendation, was following policy as the Board of County Commissioners memorialized some years ago. I do think the policy is still appropriate, and I think serves a good purpose. And so with that said, that's my position on it.
Good.
So you want to second that motion?
Sure.
Commissioner Epperline?
Which one do I, where am I at?
We're on this one here.
Okay, so
Roll call, it's just aye.
11th Street Marina for Buoys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I made the motion.
she made the motion. You made the second.
So would you like to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Duncan?
Aye.
Chair Matari?
Aye, motion carries. Next up, item 3.
Number
Abandoned boats, responsible agencies and funding. And again, this is an action item, and we have Doug Harris here.
Okay, thank you. The sheriff did approach us on this. Sergeant Miller, who is off today on vacation, had come to us because normally when there are abandoned boats along the shoreline, the sheriff will either tell them or some other entity will tow them to a dock and they will be removed. And it's usually the person that removes them does so and can put a lien against them, sell them, and recover the money. And this has been very effective over the years. However, we're starting to see a number of larger boats coming across our waterways. And specifically, this is about a sailboat that is moored up in Button Hook Bay, which is in the Farragut State Park. Okay, it's our county waters, though, the south end of Lake Pend Oreille. What has happened is this sailboat has been abandoned. The sheriff has contacted the owner. They know who owns the boat and says, you know, can you get your boat out of the water? And they say, no, we don't want to get our boat out of the water. We're just going to abandon it here. Well, it turns out it's going to cost many thousands of dollars, over $10,000 to remove this boat from the waterways, because a sailboat is not just like a regular boat you can pull out. They have to remove the lead keel, they have to take down the mast and do things like that. So suddenly the usual salvage people are not interested because the boat isn't worth anywhere near what it's going to cost to remove it. So now the park people are upset because it's tied to a launch there. The sheriff feels it's not their responsibility, which it isn't, is where we interpret it, or they interpret it, I'm sorry. And it's just in the future, they would like to have some sort of policy out of here on how to remove that and who's going to pay for it. Because right now, it's very ambiguous. No one is offering to pay for it. No one's offering to remove it. Currently, it's one boat, but down the road, it may turn into more and more as people start abandoning vessels on the waterways.
Can I add?
Of course.
And this is unique too. It's adjacent to the shoreline of a state agency, State Parks Department, Farragut State Park. And so the state has the littoral rights in this location. Farragut State Park, and this has been 3 years that it's been there. And it's sitting, because they drop, you know, they 11 feet or so, they drop Pend Oreille every winter. And so it's keel in the mud, or on the sand, whatever you want. And this boat's up, and it's probably about a 30-foot boat. Where'd Nick go? It's about a 30-foot boat, isn't it? Yeah, with probably a 35-foot mast. And so it's a beast. And the state's saying they don't have the money. Nick can add an interesting story to this if he chooses. But the state's saying they don't have any and they want you to pay for it, the county. The county's saying it's on your property, the state's. And so nobody wants to pay for it. I found a contractor who I built spec homes with who said as long as he didn't have any liability with the registered owner, he would remove it for $5,000 and proceed from there. But he just doesn't want that liability. And I was actually talking to the sheriff earlier, and I mentioned this to Ryan Miller, the deputy at our meeting. Why can't they start the impound process immediately and impound it while it's sitting there, as opposed to, because they're just going to do that once they tow it. So if they impounded it right now, you could auction it sitting there. My guy would probably then bid something on it. Maybe get away without paying anything for having it removed. But my guy's got a bunch of heavy equipment and a big flatbed trailer, and he welds, he does everything. And he'd weld up a cradle for it, and he'd tow it to a launch and then pull it out. But it's still, like Doug was saying, there's an intrinsic problem of whose responsibility is it truly? Especially when you have somebody that's reasonably in your face about it. I don't want it. I'm leaving it there. So in fact, I don't think it's a criminal act. I don't know why it's not some egregious littering violation, but it's yeah. So that's kind of
it's different than a highway too. It's not really a hazard to anything sitting there, other than
my eyes.
Yeah,
but
it's not a hazard to navigation.
And it takes up that dock space that the public could be otherwise utilizing.
So I guess what we're asking is if the County Board of Commissioners would consider how we get rid of this. If they'd set up a fund to do this, if it were to come around, I believe that's what we're requesting.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's one boat. Nick, do you have any input?
Commissioners, it's, based on everything Doug and Tom have described, it's probably time that the county consider adopting some sort of ordinance that allows the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office to do what they need to do. I wouldn't know what that language would specifically need to say. That's probably best left to the attorneys and the sheriff to make that determination. But rather than be reactive and trying to figure this out on the fly, to Doug's point and Sergeant Miller's point, who brought this up, we're starting to see this more. These boats are getting bigger. They're more expensive to salvage. And this is a case in point. For those of you who lived here long enough to remember the large vessel that was in Cougar Bay, for a number of years, it was approximately 50 to 60 feet long. and it was a private contractor at that time, Mr. John Condon, North Idaho Maritime, on his own dime, removed it from Cougar Bay. And the county had no policy, procedure, or ordinance to address it. So it would be my recommendation the Board of County Commissioners consider directing me to work with council to bring forth a resolution and then figure out a funding mechanism, should the board even want to get involved in that. But at least a tool for Kootenai County Sheriff's Office to address this, and Parks and Waterways as well. To date, if someone abandoned their vessel or it otherwise sunk or there was something else that occurred where they walked away, we would contact Lake City Marine, who's on Mr. Sam, I forget his last name, on the Spokane River. He would tow it, then salvage it, again, where there was some value. But in this case, and probably not the last case, we need to have something in place. So that would be my recommendation, Commissioners.
Thoughts?
Is it currently a safety hazard, or is it just an annoyance?
At this point, it's described as an annoyance. It's not a hazard to navigation because it's tied to the dock. It's taking up dock space, so once again, it's a nuisance more than anything else.
So I say let's go after an ordinance regarding abandoned boats, and I don't know if civilly there's a way to have a lien. It cost us $5,000 to remove your boat, so this lien is out there. We wouldn't necessarily be able to attach it to property, but that would be a lawyer thing.
Get a judgment, again, so it just hangs over their head for eternity.
Well, there's a couple of ways you can do this. It sounds like there should be an ordinance, because if people are going to put boats in the water and walk away from them, which likely will happen as more and more boats get into the water, there's a couple of factors. One, what is the definition of an abandoned boat? I mean, if this guy's still paying for a slip and he's keeping that boat in the slip, is it truly abandoned? So you're going to have to come up with a definition for what constitutes an abandoned boat before the government gets involved and starts fining or taking property from people. So that's one item to consider. The other is, as far as what's the funding mechanism for it? Is the boat owner going to be liable by signing some form somewhere, whether it's a registration fee that they've agreed to follow the county ordinances, and the county ordinance says that this boat owner is liable for the cost of removing this abandoned boat? Or do you want to go through boater fees and set some small amount aside so that over time, there's a fund that can manage to these things? I mean, we're dealing, I guess, with our first one that's meaningful at this point. So thinking those things through, I think, would be important on how you want to do that. But what constitutes an abandoned boat, I think, is the beginning.
I think that's similar to what constitutes an abandoned vehicle on the highway.
Well, that's on the highway, though. If it's in a driveway that I'm paying for and it's just sitting there for years, is it abandoned?
No, it's not on your
Paying for
property.
anything.
No, it's just, and this boat, for
Public
instance,
dock.
is at a public dock. It's not in a private slip.
Okay.
So see, if it was in a private slip, I think that would be akin to like these storage facilities. Once you quit
Yeah.
paying, the owner has a
They own it,
lien.
basically. They can
they've got a
dispose
place-
of it.
They've got recourse.
Yeah.
Where this is a public dock on state land that happens to be in county waters. See how it's going to get
Oh, yeah.
muddled?
Yeah. So we want to think that through a little bit.
That's why we came to you.
Yeah.
Nick had an idea.
Yeah, just for clarification, it's actually anchored, so it is not affixed to a dock, whereby there's the real issue. It's anchored in open water. So to Commissioner, exactly to your point, having a resolution that clearly defines what is abandoned and getting KCSO a sharp tool to be able to address those issues is precisely what we need.
And proper noticing, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've had the same issue with community development on some issues with people and their property. And you want to make sure you meet proper noticing requirements so that if the state is going to take over someone else's property, they've been properly noticed.
And we have similar ordinance for parking at
Yeah.
Parks and Waterways facilities. It's tagged. If it's not removed, Kootenai County Sheriff's Office is notified, and they simply look at our previous tags and they remove it after that time has elapsed. So there's a path forward here, and I'm happy to work with legal to bring something forward for the board to consider.
Yeah, because we don't want to have something to turn around on ourselves. We want to make sure we get it done right.
Agreed.
Because I could just see somebody up there, oh, that was my boat. I was just going to rebuild it this year.
Well, I'm good with it, if giving Director Snyder direction to work with council on that.
I'll get it done.
Okay.
You always do, Nick.
Next up, item 4, letters of appreciation. It's an action item, and Doug Harris, you are the star of the show today.
Apparently. The board over the last few years has had the privilege of working with both Director Snyder and Sergeant Miller of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Department. And we found that to be just wonderful people to work with. They bring us great information and they do a wonderful job. So it was brought up at a meeting last year. Perhaps some formal recognition for their work would be nice, because I know you're aware of it, but also with us, we have a pretty intimate relationship. Every meeting we have, they come and put on PowerPoint presentations of what they're doing in the community, how they've done their things, and where they're going in the future. So on that, we were asked to come up with a letter of appreciation for them. So I can either hand you the letter, or I could read it into the record, whatever you'd like to. Your pleasure.
I'm good if you read it into the record, unless
Well-
it's multiple pages.
It's one page.
Okay.
Okay. And because he's here, we'll address it to Director Nick Snyder, Kootenai Parks and Waterways Department. Dear Director Snyder, on behalf of the members of the Kootenai County Parks and Waterways Advisory Board, please accept our sincere appreciation for the extraordinary job you and the Kootenai County Parks and Waterways staff have done for the residents and many visitors who use the public facilities in our county. It's an enormous undertaking considering the sheer size and scope of your area of responsibility. Kootenai County is comprised of many miles of trails, parks, and a large number of waterway accesses, including the building, maintenance, and servicing of public boat docks and launches across our many lakes, rivers, and other waterways. You've been able to successfully serve the needs of the recreational public while keeping the taxpayer costs down through the effective management and your outstanding ability to obtain grants and other sources of funding to enhance the budget for the capital improvements and procurements to your area of responsibility. The advisory board unanimously agreed that your team's performance and the outcome we as a community have received and enjoy is a direct result of your leadership, inspiring and motivating your staff to efficiently and professionally service our community. Thanks to your leadership and dedication, combined with your staff's teamwork and energy, the citizens of Kootenai County have benefited from the results of your efforts. You and your staff should take great pride in this accomplishment. Please accept my gratitude and that of the members of the Kootenai County Parks and Waterways Advisory Board for a job well done. Signed, Doug Harris. So I would like to present that to Mr. Snyder, if we may.
Of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And here it is. This,
Run that to the bank and deposit it.
And stick around for photos afterwards.
Yeah.
And then, as we work with Sergeant Miller, and I'm glad the sheriff is here today to hear this, okay? Because we did have the undersheriff, Brett, was at one of our meetings, and we were able to mention that. But I'm glad you're here today, Sheriff. So may I read Sergeant Miller's letter? Sergeant Ryan Miller, Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Dear Sergeant Miller, on behalf of the members of the Kootenai County Parks and Waterways Advisory Board, please accept our sincere appreciation for the excellent job you and the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, recreation, safety, and seasonal staff have done over the past several seasons in patrolling our vast waterways and ensuring the safety of the boating public in Kootenai County. It's an enormous undertaking considering the sheer size and scope of your area of responsibility, as Kootenai County has 18 lakes, 2 rivers, and approximately 54 miles of navigable waterways, encompassing a little over 7.5% of Idaho's recreational water. You've been able to service this area with only 2 full-time, and depending upon the time of year, a varying number of seasonal deputies. The advisory board unanimously agreed that your team's performance and the outcome we as a community have received and enjoy is a direct result of your leadership, inspiring and motivating your permanent and ever-changing seasonal staff to efficiently and professionally service our community. Thanks to your leadership and dedication, combined with your staff's teamwork and energy, The citizens of Kootenai County have benefited from the result of your efforts. You and your staff should take great pride in this accomplishment. Please accept my gratitude and that of the members of the Kootenai County Parks and Waterways Board for a job well done. Sincerely, Doug Harris. So I'll present it to the sheriff, and he can present it to Sergeant Miller. Okay. And why is this an action item?
Thank you, Doug. Thank you very much.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I would. I'd just like to add that under Robert Norris, under Ryan's leadership, we have not had any complaints on the Spokane River in the last 6 months.
Winner.
We're doing a great job.
Nice.
Had zero complaints
Be a realtor.
on the Spokane River, so thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Sheriff. Glad you're here.
Well, keep up the good work, and hopefully the next 6 months will be the same there.
Not likely to be the same.
Doug, very well done letters. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have copies for your record as well.
Does anyone have any comments or thoughts? No?
No, I just, all my time working with both KCSO Marine and Parks and Waterways have kind of echoed that exact sentiment. So I appreciate the hard work and dedication, because there's a lot of unhappy people sometimes that we have to encounter, but far outweighed by the happy people. So we're thankful for that.
And if we could get a sample from Director Snyder so we can replicate and duplicate the grant acquisition acumen that you have, because it really does make a big difference here. So thank you. With that said, public comment. Nope. 11:26, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.